going to win, if they're going to win this map, if they're going to win after getting dominated like they did just now, knowing that it's Astralis, then they have to have everything fall into place, right? They have to feel like it's their time. And I think that part of that is winning the pistol, which sort of dampen it in terms of strategy, but sometimes it feels kind of random, you know, who's able to come out ahead here. So maybe if they're fortunate, they'll feel a little bit better if it starts with this pistol.
Let's see if that's the case. We've got a really fast fight here inside a connector. Bombs actually included in this firefight. Tarek wants to give chase to Glaive, who does get away for the time being, but repeats to his demise. Another headshot here for MIBR, and it looks like they've done it. It looks like they will continue to contest the curse. Another pistol potentially theirs, unless Device, who after last game was just immaculate.
I can't remember a performance from him in a single map in a final like that. So
no,
I don't ever.
Not to be that lopsided.
Yeah, I mean, you know, MIBR meeting them in a final can only happen under special circumstances, but still, like, he killed Tarek, Stewie, Fallen, Cold Zero for 34 times in a map, right? And like it just doesn't, it's just not easy to do on an individual basis, and let alone with just his team score like right behind him. But overall, clean headshots across the board, and you know, right after this, right, the team looks to the left, looks to the right, dabs everyone up, starting to feel like, all right, we've started somewhere good. So now we move into round 2, and Astralis have decided to force into it. They do have armor as well as some utility, and I like that. This is something that MIBR haven't done. They have focused on buying pistols and armor, but not so much the nades and flashes, the supporting grenades that can really take a round like this, a low percentage round, over the line.
Was Fallen and Device to make initial contact with one another. Deagle at a distance can be dangerous, indeed. But Fallen and Fur will be side by side here towards the washroom. So a little forward presence. This is going to give some real estate over to Astralis. It's going to allow for them to work long, get that info as well. Just start kind of pressuring MIBR in the sense that we're going to get into the close proximity, whereby these SMGs versus pistols don't have as big of an advantage. But gotta be cautious. There's a totem pole here on the other side. That's a great frag grenade out from Fur. Substantial damage, and the fact that Fallen has already picked up a kill just means this is looking good for the Brazilian core. But it's not done yet, and there's 45 seconds left still for it to unfold. It's gonna be off that long contact. Keep your eyes on Device for a second. He is gonna be finding Tarek, and sure enough, he takes his head down. So now these two CTs are gonna get pinched from each side, and yes, just like that, you've got yourself a round. Astralis seem to have managed to at least put this into question, and sure enough, with Device continuing on this expedition, it is gonna be another upset unless Stewie 2K has something immaculate to say, but he doesn't. Just like on Nuke Launders, or excuse me, Train, it's turned right around.
Yeah, just as you pointed out, Connor, the most salient point of that round was the linchpin. That was Device, how he encroached all the way to the end of the choke point. Tarek peered at his angle, and then he activated the rest of his teammates to push through, even though Fur played that masterfully. Even though in the game of rock, paper, scissors that is utility, you have Molotovs that get thrown and then smokes to put them out. You can actually cancel a smoke out with another smoke, and that's what Fur did, is as Glaive threw one to the site so that they can get out of bathrooms, Fur threw his immediately so that they couldn't get past his. And then at that point you think, all right, there's not that much utility for Astralis. MIBR have this in the bag, and Device comes through to make another play.
Dupree gets the first kill this time. That was a 4-man cohort working up long A. And MIBR immediately had thrown themselves towards the B site, so trying to play close proximity, trying to do something of a stack. But Astralis will continue with another kill. Device just making quick work of any long players so far.
This round already falling apart, so you can see the fire coming through the floor just to let them know that bank is closed. And now it's just these 3 players that have to kind of wait and play like retake frags, which is never fun to do if they weren't hard enough already to come by. But if you hit a flick like that, I mean, you can make a case for it.
Yeah, give me more of those. If at the very least you're gonna lose rounds, make them pay for it. Price of life.
But long the approach is a very common thing to do for terrorists who want to come up on Overpass and make sure that they have the least chances to lose. If they want to just group up and explode, or they want to move the round along quickly, it's actually really nice when you can have your back against a wall at any time, and that means being on either the left side or the right side of the map. So if you're over at B, you can go on Monster, and everybody swings out. Nobody has to worry about crossfires, or like on Nuke, when you come out of Squeaky, you have to worry about Heaven. Instead, you can just kind of back to the wall. There's this one close left angle, and besides that, they can swing out together. All all look at the same stuff and make sure that they trade. And it's a clean round for Astralis. Overall, they lost 2, but they could afford it because of the SMG players. So, what'll be the case now? Stewie's gonna be able to recycle his UMP, which is something. I like that on the pistol. They were controlling the middle of the map. That's a very important part of the map, obviously. Just denies that 7-second rotation offered up from the stairs that is otherwise, you know, over between 10 and 15 seconds if they want to go back through spawn. And that's something we'll see teams do on select rifle rounds because it is kind of a precarious spot to put CTs in when they have a lot to lose. But if done right, can have tremendous impact.
We're looking for more tremendous impact towards long this round. Continuing with what has worked already, but there's a little bit of a slight difference. Stewie 2K up here towards the top of washrooms with a UMP. A little bit of firepower. He's good enough for a single kill, and he knows there's others out there. So he'll just hope that they trickle in and substantial damage, whether that be from him or, of course, Astralis' teammates. What's substantial is that Glaive sits on a low bar, and that the rest of the pistol players still up for MIBR can get something done. But Astralis will take a breather, pump the brakes. They've got a minute 10 to do so. And in the meantime, MIBR, they'll wait for no man. Looks like they want to make a play towards bathrooms, or at least find the safety of the cover, because with these positions, they can actually stop the cross, which would flush coldzera out of the bomb site. Cold can just stay here. Unless this happens, a full extension from Dupree. Nobody's able to stop it as Tarek has a more passive angle, and he's all alone now. There's plenty of targets to come his way, but there's also one behind, and that's really going to spell his demise. He knows he's in the open, and so Astralis will take a third.
Yeah, and that's how you play an anti-eco, right? They do it once again. They go for long, and Stewie did as much as he could, you know, put in like almost like a couple more dinks. I don't even think he knew because he was blind, but he still did all that damage, and the round was closer than they thought. But the other important part of that is the fact that they leave Zipix out by the stairs, and he's there to listen if someone decides to run up, if the CTs decide to go out there out of spawn, but they don't want to go downstairs to check because of all those close angles. Then instead, he waits for them to retake A. And also, all of these players that are left in A, since they go long, are now in the fishbowl. And everybody from the T side that's swinging out long has so many advantages peeking into the site that they are relatively safe, even though there was an overstacked area. Now we have all of Astralis congregated towards B outside with the bomb, and smoke's ready to go. Do you know what's coming?
I'm gonna say an execute.
Yeah, certainly feels like it. You typically are not going to want to let go of the other half of the map unless you're going to do something like this.
See if it works. It's got Stewie in an awkward spot. He will extinguish the flames at his feet. coldzera by his side. The Astralis actually haven't made much progress past the monsters. Stu will drop to the fragmentation. Obliteration, the first man in, and Tarek's now here to support. So we do see MIBR trickling downwards, and we see Astralis limping forwards, but they haven't really sustained much losses in the form of casualties or damage. In fact, they plant in this 4v4, and there's so many players on this site, it feels like there's 8 guys here. Zipex device, they're going to be getting these kills. Finally, we see that big clash, that crescendo of kills, and they all belong to Astralis.
Called the Kalashnikov.
Yeah, for a reason.
Yeah, they just crunched them on the site. Everybody folded. And we're going to see later in the next half the way that Astralis play the B site versus executes. The smoke they drop is actually similar to the one that we see right here by the pillar, and it connects with the barrels to make sure that you deny vision. But as we can see, because the smoke was actually offset a little bit, Device was offered up a headshot angle to go and peek the player that was going to go and pit. Normally, as a CT smokes that, then they're going to be able to kill the planter or make it really uncomfortable to think about planting because that area, that part of the map is uncontrolled. But Device was able to exploit it.
This is the fast one. They're just throwing themselves into short water, trying to contest, but the counter flashes here from Astralis were fantastic. You saw how blind and cold truly was. Device caught in a bit of an overextension there. Didn't expect Fur to be behind the water, so he's fully exposed. A wide angle, wide swing. Costs him his life, but it's not going to cost Astralis this round. They've retrieved bomb, they've moved it towards B and cleared everything out in the meantime. So even the bomb carrier knows it's a sprint, but a safe one.
Absolutely. You know, one of the intangible things that is always referenced by analysts and pro players and everything when they're trying to explain like what the feeling was is like this thing about confidence, right? And it's so hard to quantify that and explain why that helps you win, along with momentum and other words like that, all these, you know, word clouds, words that we use in Counter-Strike. But the thing about it is that if you have low confidence, you make decisions slower, you aren't sure about your decisions, right? If you have high confidence, you can move at a fast tempo, you feel like you're going to hit your shots, you're not scared to do things, and all those things factor in to help you win. And I like that Astralis here are keeping that high tempo and making sure that they explode quite often. I think they're they're abusing the fact that they had such a dominant map 1 and just trying to bleed that into map 2. So every round they win by exploding, MIBR just get less and less confident. You know, they start to question themselves more and more. It makes it harder to stay coordinated when there's so many smokes and flashes and Molotovs cascading over the site. And instead they have to think about like just getting a lucky hold, right? And then instead they get dominated because Astralis are feeling it, already on fire.
And even when they burst, I love to like think back to what we saw with that last gun round over towards the B bomb site, whereby Astralis, because of the smokes and flashbangs, they held off for a second. Stewie was inside his own smoke, he thought he was safe, but then 5-10 seconds after this delayed push, we get that big flurry of frag grenades, and off of that, it's the explosion, right? It's a burst and it's quick, but it's well timed. It's intelligently timed. And you saw the end result. A round for Astralis, 5 in a row now as they are on fire officially. Double op setup. Fallen and coldzera.
Said it before I could. It's going to be definitely the focal point of this map. Especially now, late in the half adjustment. And Astralis aren't going to poke the beast. Instead, slowing the tempo down, waiting to see if there's any movement from MIBR so that they can react. And instead, the clock will simply bleed down. Still plenty of time left to do what they need to do. But it's at this point where MIBR, who have used some grenades, are going to start thinking about falling back, and that might be the worst thing they can do.
I feel like Fur is incredibly alone here, very much isolated. Fallen would be the closest form of support, but because he as well is on his own, his attention entirely allocated over here towards Party, and well, there's a smoke up in his face, but he's going to have to get CQC, and that's as close as you could get. He goes right past. And now Fallen is in a powerful position, but Tarek has to realize there could be people here. Spam is good for damage. Fallen doesn't want to scope in, doesn't want to be heard. Will find the fadeaway kill just as Tarek had denied entrance towards this A site. And immediately, MIBR have established a man advantage in this 4 versus 3. The B site is actually being bolstered. Tarek has moved down. They get ahead of this rotation, calling it and stopping it in its tracks. 15 seconds left, and nobody moves further. Excellent hold from MIBR.
Yeah, absolutely well played, and it was all about getting the information there. And just as you mentioned, there was a point of weakness in Fur because he was the only person in stairs, and typically you can be there as long as you have a way to fall back. And as soon as Fallen gets smoked out, instead of actually falling back and being afraid, he stands his ground, waits there for information, and Fur goes down, but he answers right back. And then he also pushes them into an awkward spot where now they don't have the op taken out at A, and they just lost a kill for free. So it was very important that MIBR stood their ground, and we know that they're always going to be good for that. Very aggressive squad here, even before when they were 5 Brazilians, and now with Stewie, they've got playmakers, so it's good that they're keeping up the tempo and not feigning to the aggression of Astralis.
And I feel like that result in the previous round is a different type of a way to bolster confidence, whereby, you know, it's not somebody taking a very big responsibility and making a brazen play, but rather sitting back and playing textbook CS. We'll see if they can lock down the B site yet again. It's Cold and Stewie falling back off of the first array of grenades. They put down a bit of their own, and it does disrupt the vision. Stewie and Fur have gotten 2. This is great. Astralis just stopped in their tracks as they attempt desperately to get in, but it's not all good. MIBR have now lost 2 bodies, and Stewie should be predicted here. Zipex honed in as Glaive gets the headshot, and that leaves us even keel. With 50 seconds left, the options are open.
I love this. The 2 IGLs left with Tarek and Zipex. Zipex being, you know, maybe the best clutch player in the entire server, if not the world, and there's so many options for them with 50 seconds up. They finished their duty at B. They've left it up in the air as to what they're going to do. They can kind of reset now and force MIBR to decide if they're going to play halfway down or if they're going to gamble stack, and it looks like they've kind of done a little bit of both. But Fallen, one with the op, is not going to be able to initiate contact unless a frag is just flagrantly offered up to him. Looks like he definitely wants a piece of the action before it's too late, and he's starting to get the idea that it might be A.
He's got to be cautious. If he holds just this angle, then he needs to be wary of the fact that they could just walk right past, but he misses his shot, and his opportunity to stop bomb continues to duel in the meantime, but cannot disrupt it from going down. So the retake comes forward. Tarek has the kit. Molotov and 2 flashbangs also for MIBR here to work with. And there's no utility for Astralis in the terms of staving them off. So they're just gonna have to lock this down. We've got one on the dice box. That is Glaive. Feeling the pressure from Truck. He's gonna change position, and this has all been heard. Zipex gets him, Fallen peeks wide, and he needs 2 perfect shots with this off, but no one presents themselves, and he tucks tail. Astralis will win this 2v2.
No, an absolute tragedy of a way to lose a round, and oh my god, Fallen dying too at the end of it, meaning he could have just tried to go for the, what would have been an incredibly unlikely retake, but still, just terrible to be able to have to lose that AWP. And I don't know if Astralis knew that it was going to be a double op setup, even though on the previous round it was, because I'm not sure if they made contact with Cold. Mistake me if that is the case, but going B and doing a contact explode is a perfect thing you want to do if they are going to go invest in double ops. So it made sense, and it looked like it was going to be Mibr to actually hold in spite of that. Stewie going absolutely bananas on the B site from the barrel's position, but it seemed like in his final few moments, his head down, he was calling to his teammates to help him out, or he was trying to communicate something, but no one was even close. You know, he could have just kept trying to fight for himself and maybe would have got more done.
This one's going to be quick. A throwback to the most previous of rounds. It's the long A play with a couple of bodies stacked up into the bathrooms. They don't want to line up for the deagle. USP is then cleared, so Stewie meant to be the left hook and Fur the right, but both sent packing, as is the case for coldzera. So the remaining Mibr members will be so far behind enemy lines that it doesn't even matter. Astralis will be taking the 7th with ease.
And again, this long anti-eco, rinse and repeat. It's a similar setup. Zipex the same man, waiting for the flank and waiting for the rotate through stairs, and it just works so well. They can know what you're doing. They overstack at long bathrooms. They can still die, right? Again, there's no crossfires for the CTs to abuse, and that's what a lot of teams need to know about. Like, this is one of the reasons, actually, Yanko a long time ago talked about this on Dust too. Like, maintaining those long distances was one of the main features, and that's similar to long on Overpass. Just an incredibly consistent way to do something, even in a situation where there's tons of mind games, there's tons of preparation that goes into the matches. Hitting up long is a super consistent way to maintain that rifle advantage, and we can see it just working flawlessly for them. Even better so this round than even the previous. 7-2 now. Full buys out. They go right back to the double op setup. I honestly don't blame them. I think the thing is they're still got that weakness of B, but it's going to be on Astralis to figure out, right? Try to siphon out the data as to whether or not they went back to it, and that could cost them a life.
Little update with the average damage per round here. We've got 2 players on Astralis sitting over 100, being Zipex and Device.
Yeah, Fallen had a little bit of a struggle, and that's one thing that wasn't even mentioned, was like critical shot he could have hit when they planted on the wrong side of dice box.
Yep, he got that one chance.
He got that one chance. I've seen him hit wider flex from that position, but not this time around, and that really could have done a lot in terms of making sure they wouldn't have had to save.
This is another really fast setup, though. Astralis just throwing themselves into short water. Fallen will be on the other side. I don't recall seeing this op down on the B bomb site. Sometimes sure in heaven, but never this close to the front line. See if anybody oversteps into his aim. Got to be cautious when you're going for wallbang kills, because Zipex is in the server. He is the king of those when it comes to the B side of Overpass, but right now it is just Mibr with the kill feed to their favor. Stewie gets tagged to 50 in the process, but what's important is we're standing in a 5 versus 3, and Astralis are sort of boxed in. The connector player could be cleared depending on how Glaive decides to play this. Bomb pretty locked into Monster, doesn't really want to go anywhere too far from this position, but they also can just fall back. They can wait for someone from Mibr to overstep and die.
Yeah, and you know, Fur's doing the safest route possible to take this kind of liberty to go on a big flank, and honestly, if his teammates fail in the site in this situation, it's really not his fault. He's a great way to seal this up too, and he's playing it as safely as possible, expecting this would be extremely unlikely, but he misses his first opportunity. He could still fall back if he wanted to. Instead, he'll have the door slammed in his face. But Astralis, it's understood what they're going to do.
Yeah, they know, and therefore they know that their opponents are prepared. coldzera with the first one's going to miss his second shot as he takes damage. That's 2 ops on the pillar. Not quite enough parking space for both, but they get the job done regardless. There's a third for Mibr, and it comes in the form of 4 players standing. That's what you love to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like looking like they were basically akimbo at that moment, shoulder to shoulder on the main pillar in the B site. But it's just because they knew exactly what was going to happen. You know, Fur had all that information, so like let's overstack. You know, it also helps you focus on your crosshair. You know, you're going to make less mistakes in terms of like when you throw utility, when you think you could like need to peek B for something. All your teammates in the site just know since this is going to come at some point. Sun's out, guns out, and they're ready. So. Solid round for MIBR to win. Double up setup pays off for what would have been probably the last time in the half, and now they're turning it up a notch.
Yeah, they're trying to get really aggressive, and Device wants nothing to do with it. I mean, he just underhands the flashbang and will join his teammates with what looks like a rapid B execution. For the first time, there's actually nobody for MIBR inside of this B site. They're not playing around the pillar or the barrels or even towards Monster. They're instead back here by Graffiti. The numbers are there, but the forward positioning isn't. This is what can truly afford Astralis a bomb plant. And with those Molotovs, that's actually going to disrupt both of the CTs. They put the smoke down for what could cover plant, but Stewie's going to get aggressive. He throws himself into this fray, frantically trying to shut it down, but he's caught fumbling his hands, and Device just destroys Tarek. Sure, Cold is left back towards on Graffiti, but with 20 HP, what's he going to do? He needs his teammates to come bail him out, and they've already started with Fur. It's put us into this equal 3 versus 3, but in order to get closer to the bomb site, someone has to take an initiative. And who's going to do that? I mean, we've got Fallen swapping to an M4, not wanting to play 2 ops in this retake. He will be the front runner, and he's spotted by Zipex already. Cleaned and cleared with absolute ease, but Coldzera is then the next to fall. Fur with a headshot makes it look so doable, but now he's pulled into the crossfire. He still doesn't know where the last is, but he should have a good idea. Glaive is over towards short, but Glaive has done enough to burn off the time.
He's got nothing to do it. Now he knows that he's going to run away, so Glaive goes and cleans him up too. Damn. I mean, it's just like they're getting a series of unlikely frags once they're in the site, right? It seems like MIBR have actually, and I would love to hear the stats on the analyst desk afterwards, but in terms of opening kills, they have been denying the initial rushes on like first frag opportunities, but then afterwards, like once they're in, Magus just opens up. Like Stewie has made plays. He actually had a really good method to the path that he was going on the site, but then just caught off on the box, right? Yeah. Magus takes him out, then goes ahead and gets another frag. So, you know, it feels like really like everybody is definitely trying their hardest. I mean, and obviously that goes without saying, but there's smart decisions involved for sure.
Nobody pressed, not live.
Yeah, this is gonna be a round to chill out.
It's either that or the most elaborate smoke execution you've ever seen.
Gotta love a match medic to come in clutch.
Did you see the NRG boost from ESL New York at the T-spawn?
The 4-man.
The 4-man, yep.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that since Ghost used it.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I'm glad you gave credit where credit's due. Like, I think for a lot of people, it was obviously the first time they saw that boost. I think it was the first time I saw that boost, but quickly learned that that was not the first time it was used. That was quite a surprise.
It's not often you see a 4-man boost.
Not often, yeah. You're using a lot of resources. You know, there's like that triple boost that people do with USPs on
Graffiti side.
Yeah, Graffiti side. And it's like if you do that boost, then immediately, even if you get a kill, the other team knows you have 3 people who are committed to B site. You know, they're far away. That means there's maximum 2 at A. That means they're probably not playing too aggressively, right? They're relying on this for the information. So it's not something you want to do every time. And it's like, you could call that like overpowered, if you will, but there's so much information gained from doing that. And it takes so much time as well. So for the sake of it, we know that Astralis are probably just going to buy up all their standard things. They're going to have every piece of utility that they need. And as for MIBR, it looks like Tarek. I don't know if it was match medic, and then he bought the noob tube. So maybe, okay, no, he's not going to do it. It's not too many positions that you could use it in. Definitely stairs is one of them.
Connector, I love.
Yeah, could have been.
Shotguns.
Yeah, is that something you do?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. You're that dude. You're that dude.
The XM1014.
Man, this is probably pretty big for Tarek. I mean, the fact that they're in the final is like, I want to say good enough. I mean, I wouldn't, if I was their coach, I wouldn't be like, you guys did good enough.
Yeah.
Let's go play Astralis. Get out there, guys. You guys did good enough. No, I wouldn't say that, but I would still be proud, obviously, and you know, for Tarek, he's going to be out here in front of the Turkish crowd. It's pretty fucking. Oh, whoa! I didn't say that. There aren't sponsors for this event. We don't have anybody to worry about in terms of what we say, and we don't swear. Actually, it was a word I learned in another language.
Of course.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it means.
Don't. What we can do, of course, is still look forward to this next buy up here, because I want to see if that shotgun actually does take precedent.
Yeah.
I highly doubt they
I
fully
definitely wouldn't mind if you rebought it again. We don't exactly have info on what exactly the holdup is, but there haven't been many extended delays at this tournament.
There's never been a delay long enough to cut away.
Yeah, that's very true. And I hope they don't, because we're standing up and that would be a crotch shot.
Yeah.
So
we'd need fair warning.
Let's not go back to camera.
So it's not a buy. We're not getting tubular here with Tarek. We're gonna keep it to just the pistol. Single flashbang, always love to see it. $200 can always make a difference. Whether that be for a single kill or not, it's the thought that counts, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's the belief in yourself, but it's a big old stack over towards long A. Is anybody going to fall into this trap? It looks like it could be Device.
They're just reinforcing. It's actually, Astralis have kind of rerouted here. So they're leaving one at long to see if Astralis are just going to bite again, or sorry, Mibr, which they have. The thing is, though, I mean, they can leave this, but the fishbowl effect still, it comes into play. Having long control is extremely powerful, even with just the USPs.
That one flash has been thrown over towards the A site because they mitigated long by just pushing it through the washrooms. And, well, they'll mitigate any presence by blasting their heads off.
And it obviously won't necessarily come from walking all the way down long. As we can see, very fair fights for the terrorists to go out for. But if with long bathrooms control, they can actually rotate in and flank. So depending on how they set up, if they want to let them take the site completely, leaving a player in spawn, having top bathroom control, and watching the terrorists walk through the middle of A can help them avoid. But it's interesting, we're seeing the anti-eco evolve for Astralis specifically in this match versus Mibr. They have a good read of what's going on. As the stack strengthens and Mibr realize they aren't going to go for the reverse psychology or double mind games play, they're just going to go for what works. They are slowly adjusting, changing things slightly, still ending up in the same positions, but making tiny adjustments.
Trying, showing a little depth.
Yeah.
They're going to go for the boost, and that's so dangerous because, of course, being in front of the wooden panel means both the booster and boostee are susceptible to damage. And you can see both coldzera and Tarek there taking some substantial hits. We saw that one round where Fur was left to his own devices inside connector, and this time it is Fallen. Zero support in the setup for him. He has it all to do, and there's not even anybody watching up towards parties, so someone could just walk down on him, but that's not the case. He's gonna actually wrap back up and try to get away. However, the peek is there, prepared is Device. Sure enough, he does drop the Opper. Stewie picks up another kill in the meantime to maintain this man advantage, but bomb is back, time is there. Astralis can make up their minds and play this time.
Fur again is once again taking the liberty of just kind of walking at his pace on a big flank. That should be the safest route possible. Device is kind of tuned into this. He's on the same frequency and immediately kills for fair amount of information gained for Astralis, as well as evening up in a situation where Mibr had the man advantage. So finally that costs them. And that awareness should pay off in dividends, as now their options are opened up. 20 seconds up though. And that bomb is kind of in limbo at the moment. Will the CTs bite? It looks like...
Whoa, that's the big one. That's the kill right there. Now Zipex whips out the bomb, and he's just going to close the distance into the site. So 3v4 turns 3v1. Mibr have been decimated.
Just imagine, Stewie hits that dink. One more bullet, that's the first person. Clock's down to 9 seconds.
Yeah.
That means Zipic's got to frag out to get the bomb down, and he's got to do it instantly.
And even if he doesn't get the kill, right? Even if Stewie doesn't kill him, they just flirt around with the corners, slow Zipex down until he has to commit to the plant, and that's an easy pickup.
Yeah.
Even if you rush him and die, you've got him off the bomb, leaving Tarek to win at the A site. And in this case, Tarek will be lucky if he gets to hold onto his gun, but he has avoided Device for the time being.
Yeah, and that's been the tail of the tape. It's like, even though Astralis have been edging them out in terms of just polish with how they've been approaching everything, having everything be so calculated and sensible, they're still also kind of not getting lucky, but they are fortunate in rounds that seems like they're, wow, this is a 50-50, you know, this is so close. But then you can also put it to merit, where you talk about how Fallen, you know, misses a flick that he should definitely hit. And we have a totally different story painted for you here in the Blast Pro Series finals. Half's not over. 3 rounds here for Mibr. They can still make a meal of it. It's kind of a mixed buy. It's a goodwill buy. Kind of ragtag, but Astralis turning up the heat, running through the fire and flames.
Yeah, just straightforward, extinguishing it, and Stewie caught. He's so fixated on short that he doesn't prepare for the man pushing long, but the bomb's been thrown out. coldzera seems to have done it. It seems as though he's slowed down Astralis enough for the time being, but we've seen them in positions like this before. Despite it being precarious, it is not impossible. Both T's now, side by side, will try to crack open some skulls. Molotov will prevent any sort of a peek. Fallen's gonna get ever the closer, and they could actually go for a boost. That would be a really cool play, I think, but they won't. They're gonna try wrapping around, which is still good enough to get kills. Device, last man up, goes down. 4 to 10 now, as Mibr are trying to erect some kind of a defense, get as many rounds as they can as this comes to a close. Kiyoshima on the desk said he wanted to see Mibr start off on the T side to set the precedent and take the pace. Even though it's the second half, we know they can still reset things.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really just about you if you want to start on one side or the other. At the end of the day, you've got to play both. So I see it the way you're saying, like they can still show us what they would have had to show us on T side in the second half. And it was on Tarek to stand his ground in that round, and that's been a big problem for them. It's just that these B explodes have been so fearsome, so well executed from Astralis, that they just leave nothing up to question. Everybody dies in the site, and they plant the bomb pretty much every time. But Tarek was able to stay there, and yeah, that's proof that he's a Turk and not a chicken. I don't know what it is.
And I feel like it's also so fearsome and so tremendous when Astralis go for that execute that you're seeing Mibr, instead of trying to hold positions on that front side of short or over towards monster, you often see Mibr trying to retreat into a deeper position in the bomb site. Think about how Stewie's caught with next to pillar with his back turned. It's almost like they're thinking to themselves, okay, let's just try to stay alive. Not let's shut down this play before it happens, but rather let's survive the first offensive and then see what's happening there. I feel like that's some conditioning from Astralis. And Mibr are falling prey to it, but now they've gotten aggressive. They're playing their own game by just charging up through long, by pushing out on the party, and they have themselves something successful. Again, a double man advantage. This is how they picked up the previous round, and this is how they may pick up the last.
Yeah, that's it. Some of the more classic T-side aggression, or CT-side aggression on Overpass is finally coming into play. And what's interesting is they picked the perfect round to do it. There weren't many rounds where Astralis set out on their default that weren't anti-ecos, where they went towards A, and Mibr met them halfway, picked a round that they knew they were going to have rifles, and decided, here, let's do one of our more standard, some of the more like 2017 Overpass A aggression, where you have the double fountains push, and you have a player up here in balloons who will take the brunt of the action, and it obviously pays off in dividends for them. So definitely well met in that situation. And now it's 5 to 10. The game is it's not very close, but it's also not over. Glaive's going to have a kit and a smoke on this round, but there's a fair bit amount of utility on Mibr as well. Tarek's got a Molotov and 2 flashes, and Fallen has a Molotov of his own, so it seems like they're clearly posturing up for a B exec, and it's going to be running the whole way.
Zipex just deleted near instantaneously. Dupree falls in the exact same fashion. Stewie's on a tear. That's 3 kills for him. Now he's got the 4th, and Stu's gonna pick up this ace if he chooses to. Device is the last man up. That was near instantaneous. Give us the 5th, Stewie. No. All right. Fallen will help him out.
Oh my gosh.
You don't need the ego.
How much did they pay you, Fallen? How much did they pay you?
There it is, the clearing of the board from Furt wraps up and around. So we just said how Mibr still had a chance here, and the pistol is the best way to stoke the flames when you have that little ember of a chance.
Yeah, now their goal is obviously to convert here on the anti-eco, but what a 4K, look at that, running. And this guy's like Jason Bourne on the server at the moment.
Through
running
fire.
Through the fire, why not? Didn't even blink.
He's pissed he didn't get 5.
I can imagine. I'm sure he's pissed just from the first half, just by the way he died in the B site. Rounds that they lost, even though he had so much impact. Like, there was so many situations where I feel like he felt like he was in the zone, but he still got crushed, and that's the power of Astralis, obviously. So now, pushing out to B short with Glaive on a close angle with a CZ, but he's going to fall back quickly.
And remember, in our first half, it was still Mibr to pick up a pistol round, but it was the follow-up that they weren't able to convert. So we've been here before. We have been here all too often. Triple AK-47. So if it were to happen this time, then the costs are extravagant.
Yeah.
I'd love to just see MIBR. I mean, immediately they set up some map control. They had 3 players go over towards Monster and Short. They had 2 over here towards Fountain to just watch for some kind of hyper Astralis aggression. And now that they haven't seen that, because there wasn't some expedition from Astralis, they've got this clump and kerneled offense, a cohort of Ts just working up mid. And this means they're going to effectively play the trade game and plant this bomb, unless Astralis can put all of their pieces up on this A site preemptively.
Seems like things may fall into place. They do have that long player to tether off of. Supri. It's gonna be the first one to try to dig it out, and he only gets 1, but it's still good impact.
Tarek's 2 kills are crucial. Fur combining from long is also great because now it's that 2-pronged assault as they get to just the cusp of the site. They'll win all their fights and do enough. 3 up for MIBR, a clean conversion with an easy round ahead.
So it's actually really interesting if we compare that round to the round from Astralis where they played an anti-eco. Now they actually, it was Astralis to just kind of go out right away, walk the entire way, and they were offered up that opportunity because they knew what their plan would be at the end of the round ahead of time. Whereas MIBR actually went out to B, and it seemed like they definitely were thinking about B because you wouldn't send 4 players just to see what's going on, right? You don't send a whole party just to like potentially like seek out some information. Instead, turning tail and going back to A ended up being the right decision, but they did it almost a little bit frantically, you know? And so there's like a mixture there. There's like a really good call, but there isn't that like that decisive game plan that we've seen from Astralis. And you know, every round needs to be thought of as being its own animal, and obviously there might have been a sign from Astralis to make them turn their attention away, but I thought it was an interesting comparison. And now coldzera is going to be throwing a smoke, a couple of nades into the B site and leading the way.
No contest yet, and even once they try to do something, it's all just shut down. So if every round is an animal, Launders, what kind of animal is this?
An otter.
An
otter is actually, an otter is a perfect example of MIBR because otters can break open coconuts on their chests, you know? They're actually a very powerful animal. And MIBR aren't thought of as like this world beater team, but they definitely just got top 4 at the major, right? So punching way above their weight, just like an otter.
It's a fantastic analogy.
You'd think we'd have that planned, but no, I just like otters a lot.
God, I was shooting for a joke, and now you've changed my whole perspective on life.
This is welcome to Nat Geo.
Yeah. Settle down, David. 1 AWP in play, and it belongs to Device. No utility, that's the cost of it. No kit either. Take note of that in case we get into any after plants. But MIBR haven't gotten that far, and they're going to play a more reserved decision again. Just sit back and see if Astralis overextend. With no need to, they won't.
Similar scenes for them as they creep up to A in the setup phase of the round. Minute 26, they can encroach on bathrooms. There's not going to be an op to take off right now, and we see, you know, a lot of the times we see way more op impact in the bathrooms area from both sides. We haven't seen that, which is a really good sign. You know, it's not going to be that easy is what that says. Tarek's actually going to be the one on short all alone. They don't have info on stairs right now, and they don't have long control. It's going to be imperative if they want either site.
You'd think surely they don't just burst out from bathrooms based on the fact that they have these smokes down. I mean, they're going to be walking right into Device, and that's exactly what Stewie's just done. Sure, a Molotov could burn him out into the open, and that makes you question whether or not the timing was perfect. Just a moment later, and maybe Device is exposed. Could have enabled Stewie to pick up the kill instead of picking up the death. 35 seconds left. Still, Tarek's down towards that A site. And we could have a fallback. But it looks like it's at least going to be another volley of nades up and over. The smokes do go. Molotovs to follow suit. Now Tarek is applying some pressure at B, and that's going to lock 2 of Astralis' members down there. But the commitment's on the A site, and they're going to have 15 seconds. That is it. I mean, they are playing this down to the wire. Fur needs to get these kills right here, right now. And you can see the CTs just looking to deny the bomb. If they can deny the plant, then they're good, but they can't. Although bomb's been left behind. Time is the difference maker. As long as the CTs survive, they've got this in the bag. It's Zipex now left, and so it's theirs. Time, Launders, is the biggest issue.
coldzera, did he know? Did he know he had the bomb? Did he not know he had the bomb? What happened there? That was actually a round similar to what we saw from Astralis, where it's like, time's actually ticking low, but here's all the entries falling into place.
Yep.
And yet, coldzera, no bomb plant? Maybe he was busy on a flank? I'm not exactly sure. I want to make sure that obviously, you know, he was aware and there was still some other circumstance tying up his attention, but honestly, that was a really important time to
I don't recall anybody dying next to that second flower planter, so I feel as though somebody chucked it there as they pushed in to get the bomb site cleared, and then whoever was supposed to come behind them may have died in the process, was unable to retrieve it, so then that responsibility falls back on the Forerunners, who at that point clearly don't have any time. So
sounds like my face of pugs, Connor.
Oh, it's elaborate, and so I think this pause is justified. You can see Fallen very animated at the moment.
Yeah, I think that definitely the biggest problem though is that even though you look at that round, you can't say that that was successful or that is sustainable, right?
Yeah.
It's not. You don't ever want to let the bomb get that close when you still have a 4v5 situation, right? So even though they got in the site, that was no recipe for victory.
But it's not the kind of play that you want to start, you know, unpacking for them right now. They're just going to have to continue on. Oh, that was crucial of a kill. Fallen straight through smoke, no problem.
Yeah, it's not a trade you can demand of your opper, but they're going to be definitely blessed to have gotten it. And last round, there's a lot of casualties. It was basically Flanders Field on the A side, so I think that Astralis, even though they were able to win it in those last few moments, it cost everybody a lot of money.
How many kills can Dupree get here? He's on the front of the rock. He hears the footsteps, and despite the headshot versus Fallen, he is still denied. I mean, Fallen, he's getting kills through smoke. He's surviving headshots. He is keeping his team in this current round. Hands down.
Definitely. It was a little bit absent on train, and I mean, it's never too late to come alive until obviously the trophy is lifted, so he should be hopeful, obviously, that he can still turn this around. There's still only a 3-round disparity between the two teams. And they're making the correct decision by walking into Monster. This is, as we look at the mini-map, obviously the most open part of the entire map. Clay's going to spot that, probably call for his teammate to rotate, but all he has to do is stay here is a really good retake position.
Could have his teammates come back down. Device now clears over towards Long A, so he will start the long journey back. But the question remains, how much are they willing to try and go for this? We know that Astralis are very willing to just save, to call it quits at times, and it looks like that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, what they have right now is certainly worth holding on to.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and that's one of the rounds where you'd see like probably a lot of teams just at least try it, but then maybe cost a life. Instead, Astralis play the long game, and if you're MIBR, you're terrified of the fact that now that you know they're going to recycle 3 rifles, and let alone be able to buy 2 more. So another round on the board for MIBR. It could have been tied at this point. Considering that last round, we don't know again how that went down. And obviously, even if the bomb went down, there was still the chance that Astralis could have won like the 1v1 or the 2-on-2 or whatever the case was. So no point thinking on it too much. Oh, there's that wonderful stage we get to see, the pyrotechnics.
It looks like a spaceship.
To compliment it. I'm trying to fly that away.
I just want to stand on it.
Yeah, one day. It was a similar stage to the one at Copenhagen, but now we got the
double-decker
2-layer cake.
Yeah, I believe so. Moving up in the world.
Pretty cool stuff. So, what happens now? They aren't going to fortify the buy. Instead, they're going to recycle what they have. But I mean, that's terrifying, right, Connor?
Yeah, of course. I mean, and that's the beauty of it, right? All that decision was let this round slip, and look what they come into this with. I mean, I've seen force buys from Cloud9 that come in with less than that. So this is great. This is great. If Astralis want to continue to contest with only 2 rifles, I like that they also decide to include some kind of an aggressive stance. They go for some attempt here. It does cost them a life, sure enough, and the ump actually isn't passed back. It's left in the water. So they effectively have lost the SMG.
Yeah, at least they had someone to try to recycle the extra gun. That's, you know, a nice consolation prize. And so now we've got a small upgrade for 1 player, even though they're in total down 1 man. Device is just way up here. Fallen's not going to give him any chance to capitalize and shoot some toes off. And it's kind of a stillness in this round as a lot of players are in the dark. Right, there's tons of fog of war between these two teams. They're holding their ground, but at the same time, they're not veering too far off course. And so it's known that soon there will be a fight.
That fight belongs to Device. Takes an initiative, as does Dupree. Perfectly timed. Both frags with that CZ. Takes this down to an even 2v2 because first found an entry on the A site. I mean, that's just perfect. As far as MIBR are concerned, those entries all happen fast enough for them to regain what was nearly lost. Remember, Astralis, they saved the trimmings from the previous round, and they've managed to contest this regardless. They could actually pick up the win because Fur is so isolated. The Molly's supposed to prevent the peak, but he walks into the fight regardless. And with a smidgen of health, Device will take the kill, the defuse, the round.
Unbelievable composure from Dupree in that situation. Like, completely unfazed from the guy who's spamming him relentlessly through the wall and bathrooms, and instead just focusing down targets, knowing that what he needs to do is be a martyr for his team, realizing he's in a position to die, but he needs to try to get as much damage in as possible, and then getting the second frag so unlikely in this situation. Look at that. First headshot immediately. Stewie must be livid.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame him either.
I think we all know what he said. Something similar to what I said earlier.
Hey, you guys speak the same language.
Yeah, we both learned it.
What are the odds?
But damn, that's one way for a round to go. On top of others, these are starting to pile up. Astralis rolled into the double digits earlier than they were supposed to.
This is a fast one. They're going to go right through that CT smoke. Unfazed by Astralis' utility. Stewie clears out the barrels immediately. Blinding flashbangs go both ways, and a Molotov's supposed to prevent any kind of a walk up from this ramp. And they're doing a good job of isolating these CTs. Look at Stewie go! He's taking the initiative on his own. And it's Device now all that's left. A fast round from MIBR, a rapid clash inside the B site, and an immediate round is theirs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the pace, a fiery temperature. Stewie jumping through his own smoke wall across the entire site to make a move, because he knows that with this many players alive, he's not going to be able to just simply win this. And it's been retakes that Astralis have shined in.
That's the Stewie I remember.
Yeah, right?
There we go, Yanko too, firing them up. I mean, again, we talked about the resetting of composure from round to round. I mean, Yanko looks like a beast behind them.
Absolutely.
Right?
Imagine hearing that. Like, you actually believe someone like truly believes that you have it.
Yeah.
If they didn't, I mean, he'd be deflated.
I feel like that's what him and Zonic have so much in common. They're two very vocal, very animated coaches, and if your players are getting distressed and disgruntled, they are immovable rocks. What is movable is all of these A-site defenders. I mean, MIBR are just plowing straight through them for the time being. This wasn't meant to be much of a round. And yet, regardless, Astralis, they're still putting up a fight. Device tags another player low. Stewie's dropped. Even though the bomb site's cleared, the bomb is yet to get on it. It still resides over towards long. And it looks like everybody's just going to group up. Mohan, we have another 2v2.
Yeah, and it couldn't be more important. I mean, here's an opportunity for Astralis to completely deflate the momentum of MIBR following a round that looked like MIBR were ready to just go 3-4 in a row, maybe even get on fire. And now they have to play the afterplant. They have to play that retake that I'm sure they fear. But Astralis are somewhat out of position. There's going to be some time burned off that should give advantage to MIBR.
That's a crucial headshot. Magisk feeling as though the flames forced him into the open. Zipex could choose to walk through smoke, but does he really fancy his chances? Fur's gonna just bunker down. He's got the cover too. Time the biggest issue, because there's no kit in play. There's nothing of that in the equation, so Zipex walks away. And finally, after 5 rounds going back and forth, we have 2-1 in a row. And it goes to the favor of MIBR.
Yeah, and you have to assume the crowd is like probably, I would assume like majority in favor of MIBR just simply because of Tarek alone, you know, their last remaining Turkish player in Turkish Major Champion. Yeah. Pretty cool.
That is actually cool.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's awesome. Really holding it down for his countrymen. And yeah, this round got scary. They still landed on their feet. They can wipe the sweat off their foreheads and move on. Ultimately, we're so close towards the end. We're in that same portion of the map that we were in train, where it's just like, you know, all that matters now is what happens next. Can forget about all the mistakes, and they can forget about Overpass after this is done as well. So they've got another eco round from Astralis that they can try to capitalize on. Zipex has got himself an AK, which is definitely very powerful in the right hands. But he is only one man, so it shouldn't pose too much of a threat.
Zipex has to be careful. I mean, Stewie at any moment can just peek wide, and he's heard the doorway, that's for certain. So he's probably prepared for the push. Clearly picking up the kill. Remember, Zipex was the one gun wielder for Astralis. The first line of offense, the only threat. And a threat that's been neutralized early on. Come on, Stu, pick it up. You didn't get the first ace, and you won't get this one either. Device, like a goblin, just sitting down in the sewage. But you know, you do what you got to do to get kills.
That's true. Someone's got to do the job. sanitation engineer or otherwise. 3v2. Another AK kill, gracing the kill feed. Player heard running though on this big flank, and Tarek didn't get the memo. I don't know if that was corresponded to him, but I can't help but assume that that was heard by Fur. Maybe Fur just trolling him one more time. Not the time to do it though.
Not in the grand finals. Costs continue to stack up, and the last man's been spotted for... Oh, he's been heard. It's not gonna matter. Bullet between the eyes, brains splattered on the back wall, and Mohan. We've got ourselves a tied game.
Tied game, that's right. That's right, it didn't seem likely, especially not after that first half. I mean, they brought it back with a pistol, and now it's a brand new game. Like, look at that orange side of the average damage per round chart light up as everybody's now in kind of just like fighting against their respective opponents across the board. Stewie's actually sporting 94 ADR. That is a huge comeback into the game.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a kind of like a tragic first half, but he has bounced back harder than LeBron's hairline.
It's one of those things I love about Stewie is when he starts getting frustrated and angry, I think it sometimes translates well into his gameplay because he just wants so badly to make them pay, which he's done. But he's also been eliminated from this round. He's met Device, another beast.
Middle of the map control to MIBR, but down a man. So you still got to give the advantage to Astralis. That is the best peace of mind that you could have in the first few moments of any setup phase of a round. Initial long smoke goes down, and Device is using it as a way to fall back. So it's going to take the shot and move off it, and that can actually bait them into Zipix, who's holding this, or sorry, Dupree, who's holding this flat angle. But again, long control, imperative. They can't just get this A site for free. They've got to deal with Dupree, and they haven't done it yet. Fur has no support as well.
He's even going to linger. He's playing around this smoke. Fully flashed is Dupree. Tarek reads the fact that he is still nearby, but no further deaths as of yet. If anything, I feel like this may convince MIBR to just walk away from long, because if Coldzera goes over this, sure, he could clear the closest corner, but remember, there's going to be support from the site. Not a very fun fight, and still one that they will pick up. Device unable to cover, but the repeat's going to cost Tarek his head. And that's the bomb also thrown out into the open. With 15 seconds left, they know there's no option to head towards B. So we start to get that rotation upwards, and the question now is, do MIBR continue on? Do they try to force the issue? Because they have to do it right now. They need these kills right now. And even despite getting the first one, this round's already lost. For the second time, we'll find MIBR come short at the A site based on the clock.
Yeah, and it comes down to Dupree being able to get his kill, use that smoke to make him hard to trade. But just as you said, like, it seemed like a good opportunity just to be like, call it quits in that moment. Like, this is not working for us at long. It's so understood what we're going to do. We couldn't be any more obvious at this moment. And then you see plays like that where Tarek has to face the op, knowing that Device is there for support, knowing that he just needs to hit this very lucky headshot versus a player who has a huge advantage over him, because otherwise they're going to run out of time. And then obviously he goes down, but they still end up trying to go for it. So now it's 12-13. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I feel like losing that round is just one more round. Obviously, with the economy falling out of their favor, that can get tricky, but they still have enough for one bye here. And so there's still hope. There's still hope. And this has become a seriously competitive map. Certainly going to be a pocket pick of MIBR in the future.
Bewildering as well is even though despite Astralis' best efforts, they have yet to string 2 rounds together on this CT side.
Holy smokes.
They've been reset twice, and this could be potentially that third.
That is
it's not live.
Quite an interesting stat. So yeah, we're not live here. We're just going to hang out for a moment. And that is really interesting though to note. I mean, that really means that you're just MIBR are quite favored at this point, right? Yeah,
if they can continue that trend, right? Our big question will be, like, if Astralis can get an economy, although should we really talk economy in the last 5 rounds, then maybe we start to see them re-emerge, right? Maybe a one single time with a double op setup could be enough to just, you know, crush this comeback attempt from the Brazilian court.
And if this comes down to Inferno, I really feel like anything goes. Like,
Inferno,
that would be absolutely incredible. It's, you know, honestly the reason why, like, great matches always end up on Inferno, because every team knows they have to play it. No one wants to waste a ban on it, so it always ends up being the last map that it's like, all right, we're not going to ban it, but we're still good at it. And that's why it's always like common ground for all these top teams. And so it's just going to be super competitive, 100%. I mean, there's no doubt that Astralis' Inferno is totally solid, and like some of their best grenade tactics that they use are there, but there's also the thought that like that is not going to be a map that's going to be handed to them for free, right? So now we're going to get right back into the action in the closing rounds of Map 2 Grand Finals here at Blastproseries Istanbul.
The second Blast Pro Series event, and of course the reigning Blast champions currently in here.
Yeah.
MIBR.
That's true.
The core of it, looking to retain at least one title. Astralis seems to have been picking up every other major title you could. So I'm sure that they're hunting this scalp as well. I love the fact that we've got two ops up right now, Device and Fallen. Will they be able to find one another? No, not at this current moment. Only once Fallen continues this expedition down long could he possibly find Device, who's currently flirting and floating around the A site.
There it is. Getting real peaky with the Zop. Moving, you can see the pace is a little bit higher here. Wasting less time for good reason. Can't risk any more time flubs. Not in this circumstance. And, oh, a little bit of a boost. Oh my god, I thought he was going to go for that.
Just imagine, head ripped clean off. Corpse thrown back into the bank. I wonder what the exchange rate would be on that. 45 seconds again. I do not want to see them come short on time. It's happened twice on this site specifically.
They're making good progress here, though. They just got to continue with it. Executes out.
The CT is not really with enough utility to completely hold them back. I mean, they've literally just boxed out this bomb site with smokes, but they're not able to hold on to long control. That's such a crucial kill for dupreeh. He just goes flying forward, and because of that, he's able to skewer the attempt at the plant. Sure, there's fire there, but dupreeh is single-handedly shutting this down. We've got MIBR just spread across the site. It's an absolute annihilation.
And that site is completely closed. They moved along to the pace they needed to. They finally got to the point where they're executing with a reasonable enough time to deal with the entries on the site, but dupreeh comes in here from long and then continues to have impact as he comes back to the site, denies the plant, displaces coldzera's aim by throwing the Molotov down on him, making him run forward, and then catching him holding W and finishing the spray off like an absolute masterclass. And they've only really need one or two more of those, and that's it. So for MIBR, this burning question of whether they can take A or not, it's still maybe up in the air in their heads. As for Astralis, their defense is calcified to the point that they really just understand what everybody needs to do. And I feel like the real weakness with MIBR is the way that they're approaching long, only sending further, no one to trade. It's not easy to kill dupreeh, and there's no shame in that, you know? And I'm not saying that Fur is taking the decision like I'm going to kill him by himself. Like nobody is that like juvenile in pro level CS. But the overall strategy to approach it that way, to have 4 in bathrooms and only 1 at long, leaves so much up for question. And we talked about with the long anti-ecos why they're so powerful. It's because you can use those to approach the site. If you have 5 long, that's viable. 5 bathrooms, that's not viable. So if your player dies long just because you sent 1 there, it doesn't matter.
What a passive stance here from MIBR. They're only now getting out into the fountain, possibly hoping that Astralis would continue with an hyper-aggressive play, but that is not the case. Instead, they've stacked the B site. Tarek's been tasked with this before, just being that one sole floater. Warning sign. The Astralis frags. 2 thrown out at B, and they've done nothing this time. I'm looking at this A-site defense and wondering, I mean, if MIBR just go 4 on this, no long presence, it is solely on Device. And he's already picked up the first kill, but he's caught trying to overextend around the corner, and MIBR, they just burst and blast into the A-site. They've done it, so it seems. They've finally found their footing on this side of the map, and it doesn't come with long plays. It doesn't come with some sort of elaborate execution. It comes with a rapid pace. That's how they get in. And now as they fall back, Tarek looks to nail them against the wall. The first is his. 2 more to take, but it looks like they could still get away with something. But what's important, Launders, is even though it wasn't an immediate reset, there hasn't been much time for Astralis to accumulate cash. I don't know what stance they're going to be in if MIBR clear the board.
Let's definitely take a look. We see that there's actually quite a few players who are not in the best situation on Astralis. This could be a really relevant save to keep a close eye on, because it seems like MIBR, because they've lost rounds, they don't want to go and be a little bit too overzealous, maybe lose a kill or two. But yeah, the buy-ups for Astralis, I believe they'll be there, but they're not going to be perfect. A couple of players have actually converted with the AKs. Full set of grenades on device. Utility belt looking all good for most people. It's not full nades, but it's actually not so bad. So they do fall on their feet. And MIBR also very healthy.
Yep.
Now, MIBR were able to take bathrooms into A. But there was no one from Astralis that long. There was just no contention there whatsoever, for whatever reason.
And an utter turnaround here from Device between rounds. He goes from hiding behind the A-site plant box to all of a sudden going on this foray towards Fountain. So not wanting to give away all of that real estate as they did in the previous round, it looks like Astralis looked to hold on to a little map control, because that can be costly. That's a classic thing that happens with the A-site on overpasses. If they get really close, they can just overwhelm, but I don't know if Tarek anticipates a man behind the sandbags.
Oh, he got very lucky there. He was definitely spotted, Magis being so far away from the angle. Even though he wasn't on camera, you could assume from his perspective he had info. Molotov fluffed it long. The tree's going to have to be cleared, and some AK shots will have to ring out. But the CT's so far back, it won't make too much of a difference, and now we've got the orders. It's looking like a B hit, Connor.
It's been a little while since we've seen MIBR go all in on something like a monster push. They've got the time to possibly wrap around through short, but the question is then, can Magisk lock that down? Whereas if they all just charge out through monster here and now, there's nobody to really stop them. Magisk, though, he could find cover behind the sandbags if he's fast enough on his feet, but instead he falls back. Tarek, he's completely flashed, but still stands. I mean, this is another situation whereby MIBR can get the bomb down. They're going to actually start pushing through and clearing water. There's 3 kills here for MIBR, and they're tying things up at 14. They've convinced Astralis back, and now would be the time to chase kills and just crush Astralis, because no matter what, we're going to round 30.
Yeah, round 30, and no money for Astralis. His device also falls, meaning an op that they won't be able to recover and won't be able to rebuy. And Dupree here is the last man standing. Tons of time left on this bomb. I mean, his life is still in question. Oh, Fur might be the man to come by him. Will he spot him in this situation? And this is a tense moment. Those of us know it, but Fur's turned his attention away, and they'll at least have one gun to take into the next round.
I like the way we've seen these kinds of blanketed bomb sites in terms of smokes. Like, think back to the A site when we saw those smokes up, and it was Dupree's individualistic multi-kill that actually shuts everything down, right? A big frag from a single player when you have those frantic, fully smoked, kind of 4v4 close quarters scenarios. That's all it takes, is for one individual to go big. And this time we see it on the B site, but it's Tarek who turns it not to the favor of Astralis, but instead steals it away for the Brazilians. He gets up on the barrels, he connects a couple of headshots, and this could have so easily been denied, because you saw how Tarek was flashed at first. You saw how he's standing out in the open with nothing to do. But because he survives, look what happens. He unleashes himself, and he ties things up at 14.
Oh my god, they're actually playing for the round to end, the game to end here. The amount of money they had, they could have decided to buy on the next round. It would have been 3-round loss. I wonder the idea is here, because they've at least got the one rifle. They probably would have had a decent buy next round if they did tack this onto a 3-round loss.
For the amount of times we've seen Astralis go for saves,
yeah,
it surprises me to see this happen now.
For sure, for sure.
Like, they have been tailoring their strategies and buys to the saves. They have been very conservative with their cash.
And they heard, and MIBR heard all those nades. They have to know that Astralis are poor. So this is quite interesting. The anti-eco towards long. Similar scenes here for the Brazilians, the Turkish, and Stewie, which I don't want to get where he's from incorrect, but they have now got a ton of advantages.
The only thing I can see happening here is if you lose, you know, go for a complete and utter gamble stack, leave a single player on the A site or B, wherever it is you want to gamble, and then either you have a gambled hold with a force buy, or if these players, you know, lose a site quickly, that's when you transition into an immediate save, and then in the follow-up round, you still have your Kevlar grenades, and you'll be all right. But it's a gamble. You have to assume that everybody gets out of here alive, or you just go all in and you try to deny a 15th round for MIBR. It would be huge to do it in such a fashion in the grand finals of the map that could push this into the Astralis win, which could strip MIBR of their title.
Stacks at B though. Shot miss. Immediate rotations come out. The site exec is on. 28 seconds up.
We've seen them falter and fumble. Glaive could be a single-handed thorn, but he goes on top of the box and it's spotted. dupreeh connects the spray down, but that's only for one kill. And it looks like they've got this in the bag because there's still enough time to retrieve the bomb and get that plant in. coldzera sees it coming a mile away. And Device may be fantastic. He can be phenomenal even. But does he have it in him to win this 1v3? He's upgraded into the M4. 13 shots in the mag, and the first kill finally connected. Second one's up close. Fur just on the other side of the smoke and swapping out to the sidearm leaves him on only 5 shots, so he fades away to save.
Wow.
Or does he linger a second time?
The clock is not even that far gone. I feel like even though he's a little bit low on HP, looks for the damage. I don't even know if he gets away at this point. Potentially just under the bomb, but yeah, it looks like he might be fine. It comes close, but the tenacity from MIBR, going back to A one more time, in the face of it, seeing the nades, right? Realizing that even though it's like an anti-eco play, like A has been the place where they've lost the majority of their rounds on T side, and they still pull it off, and they stayed strong. I mean, I feel like Astralis, like pulling out that buy, it's like obviously because they're confident. I feel like I can't even remember the last time that they went to OT.
Neither could I.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Neither could I.
when is even the last time they've been to OT, right? Like, I can only imagine. And it's really not often you see a save, I mean, a force up like that. It's funny, like in the most dire of circumstances that they do pull one out of the hat. But
very uncharacteristic, but
yeah,
not successful either.
And then they're going to go ahead again and have like a really mixed buy here. At least some players who have automatic guns, but for the most part, going to be low on utility. MIBR know that this is their map to lose.
You've come this close. A rather awful first half. One that didn't make us think this third map could even really be in question. Whether or not they'd bring it back was all on this T side, and they have done a fantastic job. They have had struggles. They have lost rounds to the clock. They have fumbled when it comes to executions. But at other times, they have just shown utter confidence. Liquid rage on these entries at time. But it all comes down to this one. Astralis could still force OT. And in order to do so, they're playing off of the back of an M4 Scout Ump 2 pistols. Grenades are there, single kit. There's enough pieces of the puzzle for me to believe because it is Astralis at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's something to always remember. Because if you don't, you'll get caught off guard. Now that that part of the plan has not been fruitful, no nades have landed. They decided to move on, potentially back towards A. dupreeh, the reaction grenade goes overhead, but just a bit too far.
Remember, that's the one M4 for dupreeh, so to see him on such a forward stance makes me a little wary. You don't want that M4 to go down. You want him to be in a position where if he makes first contact, he can ensure a fallback and play a safer kind of bunkered position, something like behind Optimus Prime or floating between the dice box. You want him to be able to rotate as well if suddenly it switches to the B site, because remember, Astralis have no forward positioning. They have no information or confirmation as to where MIBR are at, but they do have wind of this play. And they do have the ability to lock down Monster. That would cut Fallen off from the rest of his team, who look to be excessively pushing through short. But there's 20 seconds, and time could be a big issue yet again. They don't have control of Monster. They're being shot in the back, but the kills are still coming their way. And with dupreeh caught off guard, it falls onto Device. MIBR looking to push this to a third map, and they absolutely will. They will not go down without a fight. They'll continue to defend this title, and we're